You're listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and this is the show where you get expert advice about the heavy duty parts you buy and sell and keep you informed about what's happening in the industry. The heavy duty parts industry operates the same way it did when today's guest and I were first starting in the industry over 20 years ago. Someone repairing a truck needs a part. They call the local parts store and they hope to get a knowledgeable parts person. That parts person relies on their memory, maybe on a catalog or now going online and searching, or they call a dealer with the VIN to get the part number. Once the part is figured out, it's delivered a few hours later, and hopefully that truck is repaired and back on the road the same day, but not necessarily. Can this entire process be reimagined? The short answer is yes, and Tyler Robertson has done just that. Now, Tyler is the CEO of Diesel Laptops. This is his third appearance on the show. If you want to go back and hear how he started his company, listen to episode 13. And if you want to learn more about diagnostic tools, as the company's name suggests, go and listen to episode 55. There'll be links in the show notes to both those episodes. So how is a diagnostic tool company responsible for developing a truly remarkable parts platform? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today, and I'd like to welcome Tyler back to the show. Tyler, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, as a three-time visitor, I am excited to be back. I love talking about this kind of stuff, so thanks for inviting me back on.
Well, Tyler, you're always breaking new ground. We've had people come back twice, but never three times, so you're the first.
Hey, good to be first.
There you go. So, Tyler, what led you to the conclusion that building a parts platform was needed when you were in the diagnostic tool business, and why did you decide to do it yourself?
Yeah, so I never intended to get where we're at today. That was never the goal. The goal about 3.5 years ago is we had a great employee over here. His name's Nathan Noor. And we pulled him out of the parts department from a company he was working at. We brought him into our technical support department. And he did a great job, fantabulous job, great guy. You could just tell it wasn't his passion. He'd been around parts forever. And, he's kind of started talking like, man, I don't know, maybe I should move back to Wisconsin. You could just tell he was questioning a lot of things. And in the meantime, I have customers coming to me saying, man, I wish you guys had a parts cross-reference tool. We know what part we need, but they don't have it. It's priced too much, whatever the situation is. They need to find something else. I'm like, you know what? I got this parts guy here. I know there's a predominant player in the market. It's an expensive tool. It's not really designed for one person to go purchase that. And let's go see if we can build something. And that's really where I got started with, was one parts guy and just trying to solve a problem that I was hearing from customers. So I saw an opportunity there and I'm like, let's see what happens here.
So initially you created 3 websites. There was truckpartscross.com, truckpartslookup.com, and truckpartspremium.com. But very soon, there's only going to be one website, and it's all going to now be called Diesel Parts. Why did you consolidate this into one platform? Walk us through. People love to hear the behind-the-scenes story.
Yeah, so it started off with the best intentions. Hey, let's make a parts cross-reference tool. Great, we did that and got thousands and thousands of users on it, and it's working well. But then customers said, well, that's great, but I still don't know what part number I need to buy. Can you help us figure out what part number I have to buy or I need to get without having to call somebody or deal with someone? I'm like, I don't know, I think we can build that. So we figured that out, and we're like, oh, let's call it Truck Parts Lookup and allow people to look up parts, and they can click them and they can then cross-reference them, right? So we solved that. And then we built this great database, and we realized we had a bunch of really advanced tools that we could make, things that no one's ever seen before, and they're really powerful tools. And great, let's make another website to do just the premium stuff. So now all of a sudden we get 3 platforms. They're all awesome in their own regards. And I knew we had a problem when I couldn't even explain it to my own employees or my own wife, what we built. And then, we were at trade shows. Jamie, you were there, and you could just tell when you started talking to customers or doing demos, they were like, okay, why, what is going on here? There's 3 platforms. I don't get it. And, that's when we're like, man, we made a mistake here. And, I'm wearing my Truck Parts Premium shirt today. We've spent millions of dollars in building these platforms and branding and marketing and doing all these things. And, we had to make the decision to blow them all up and let's put them all on one. And I think now that we've been showing this to people behind the scenes, they totally get it now. It's crystal clear. It clarified the message. And it's what we should have done in the first place. But sometimes you learn some expensive lessons in life.
Well, and hindsight is 2020. I remember when we first started talking about me joining your team as a consultant and help, working on this parts platform, and we went out into the marketplace and we really just listened to what the customers were asking for. I think that's such an important lesson. We created a vision in our head, but it didn't really align with the vision the customer had. And one thing that I have to say about your leadership style is that you're willing to adjust. You're willing to say, hey, we made a mistake, or we need to make a 90-degree turn right now. And I remember that day when we had that conversation, and I remember saying to you, it's never going to be easier than right now to do it. Like, it's just going to get harder the longer we wait. And I think we were in the throes of COVID-19. So you can imagine, listeners, the kind of headspace that Tyler was in trying to manage all of that. And yet he still had the leadership and the willingness to follow the customer's lead and make that choice. And here we are a few months later, and I think the fruit of all of that labor is going to be wonderful, not just for you, but also for the end user customer, because they're getting what they want, what they need.
Yeah, and not only diesel parts that we put together now, but we had to do the same thing on repair, because I did the same thing over there, and I built a bunch of things in silos, and we had to put them together. And frankly, I think I got a problem coming up with diesel laptops, since a lot of people aren't using laptops anymore. These are mobile devices and tablets and their phones. And of course, we have electric trucks and hydrogen trucks and everything else coming along the lines as well. So we'll see what happens with the name diesel laptops in the future.
Right, right. So, as we talk about diesel parts, we mentioned that it kind of all started with a cross-reference tool. But if you don't have the part number that you're looking for to cross, you've got a problem. So tell me about 3 ways that you can identify parts on this new platform, Diesel Parts, that's about to go live.
Yeah, so the first one's the traditional one everyone thinks about. You call the dealer, you give them your VIN number, and they look it up, right? So we said, well, we don't have the VIN lookups. How are we going to do this? So we said, well, we need to make it so people can actually select. I have a year, make, model, and this is what I'm looking for. So we just call that one still truck parts lookup, right? Where we're exploded views now is the new terminology for it. And we built all our own artwork. We built a database behind it, and customers can do that. So that's kind of option number 1. Sometimes you want to do that in reverse, though. Sometimes you just know, like, look, I need an engine oil filter, and I don't want to go through a year, make, model and go through all these modules and find my oil filter. So we allow them to do it in reverse. We call that by component. So we let them go through and say, I need a filter. It's oil. It's for a Kenworth with a PACCAR engine, right? And it shows them the filters. So it's kind of way number 2. And then number 3 is what we call by measurements. So this is the old traditional guy throws an airbag on the counter. The pieces are broken off it. There's no sticker. There's no indicators at all. What steps do I go through to measure that thing to figure out the airbag I need? And you do that with a lot of components. You do that with S-cams, slack adjusters, brake shoes, brake drums, all kinds of things. So those are really the 3 main things. And then at the end of the day, that got you to the OEM part or that original part. But then you still want to cross-reference it to an alternative part, and we allow customers to do that as well. So we think it's a unique thing we put together.
Yeah, I hated that as a parts person when someone came in with especially an airbag and all you had was a bellows number, and then you would open up the catalog and it was like, oh, great, that bellows is used on 42 different airbags.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
like,
And what am I measuring next? And what and our software now walks you through, like, just start here. And we have little pictures that show you the exact measurements you need to make. And it filters you down as you go. So it's a really efficient way to find things like that now that I think people are going to find pretty excited to see one platform that can do all those things for people that are looking for parts.
and where this really becomes very important. You look at a parts person who really knows what they're doing. Someone throws an automatic slack adjuster on the counter. Boom, that tape measure comes off that guy's hip. 3 measurements, counts up the splines, and he knows exactly what the part number is. But if you're like a year 2 parts person, you might not even know where to measure. And so that's what I love about that feature, because it does walk you through step by step. And as each time you put in more information that's requested, it auto populates the numbers and just narrows the field down to a couple part numbers. There's really great descriptions about what makes those part numbers different. And really, any parts person with limited experience should be able to use the tool and identify the part in just a matter of a couple minutes, which is great for the guy standing at the counter waiting to go because he's got to fix a truck.
So I didn't work in aftermarket. I worked at an OE dealer, right? So OE dealer, if you have we're putting like rookie people on the parts counter because you can't find them. They're hard to find now with everything going on in the marketplace and those guys retiring. So we'd be a guy that was delivering parts last week, and now this week he's on the front parts counter helping somebody, and he just says, well, what's your VIN number? You hand him a slack adjuster, and that guy doesn't know his VIN, right? He just needs a slack, and the guy at the counter is like, I can't help you. I don't know your VIN. And I know that knowledge is getting worse and worse out there in the industry. And like you said, I think we got a great tool that's really going to help train people on how to look up these parts through means that really, frankly, these should have been here for a long time and provided by other people, but they're, opportunity for diesel laptops.
You are listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. We've been speaking with Tyler Robertson, CEO of Diesel Laptops, which powers the new really game-changing parts platform called Diesel Parts. In fact, they're so confident in it that they call it the only parts platform you'll ever need. Tyler, you've added some new features on Diesel Parts that weren't there when you had the 3 websites. Let me ask you a few questions about that. First, why don't you tell me a little bit about the Vin Decoder?
Yeah, so it was really important for us to build a Vin Decoder. At the end of the day, everything starts with a VIN. You'd be amazed how many times people call us in our tech support department on the repair side, and they say, I got a Cummins engine in this thing. And you run the Vin Decoder, and it's actually a PACCAR engine. So there's a lot of things that happen there. And if you can give people a good Vin Decoder and they just pop their VIN in and then tell them what repair information or what parts go on those things, it's a really crucial piece of the puzzle that's needed for a lot of people to figure out what direction to even start going in. So it's really the starting point for almost everything.
Right. And with this VIN decoder, it's my understanding that right now, when you put in the VIN, you're going to get some information. What information is that?
Yeah. So today, we'll obviously give you your year, make, model. We'll tell you about your engine. We'll tell you what engine model it is, what emission year it is. We'll tell you your capacity of your engine. And even now, it's in there for a lot of the engines, not all of them, but we'll even show you what filters go on that engine. So it's the very first VIN decoder that will actually even show you your filter part numbers. And we're not going to stop there. We're going to do it with a bunch of other componentry because I've already built the lookup tables. I've already built the cross tables, and I got a VIN decoder. So we're just mashing them all together and saying, let's just show you what you need to know in a quick and efficient manner.
Exactly. So Diesel Parts has advanced tools, and we've talked about the advanced tools before. It used to be called Truck Parts Premium, but there's something new showing up there. Tell me about what does it fit?
Yeah, I think this is a huge game changer because I was a parts manager before. Not a lot of people know that about me, but I actually ran a parts department. And you would constantly have that situation where a part would be on your shelf. You don't know how it got there, misorder, whatever it was. And you're sitting there being like, okay, I can't return it. I would love to sell this thing. I don't even know what it fits. I have no idea. So we said, well, look, we've already created parts lookup tables. We've created cross-reference tables. Let's just do it in reverse. Let's start with the part number in mind and go the opposite way up the chain. So we can literally take an OEM part number or an aftermarket part number, and our system will then run that part number across our existing database of all these exploded views and application lookups, and then come back to you and tell you, oh, this part was used on all these things. And it literally happens in a couple seconds. So I think it's a great groundbreaking tool that we've come up with.
Well, I'll tell you from the aftermarket side, my experience as a sales account manager. So my trusty parts manager would phone me up and say, hey, inventory's in a month, and we've got a bunch of inventory that's about to go obsolete, and we don't have a right to return it. So what I want you to do is I want you to go and sell it.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, we bought that stuff for, Joe, and Joe's fleet closed. And I don't remember what he had in his fleet, but I know that those trucks aren't really common in our area. And so we would have no idea. Like, it would be hard to remember, like, was it in a bunch of international trucks, or did we buy that stuff for his Volvo, the one Volvo he had, and now he sold it and sent it to the auction, and he bought a bunch of Kenworths. So that's what we've been selling him now. Like, it just was an impossible ask. And as a salesperson, you'd go out and you'd talk to the customers and be like, hey, I got these parts, I got a great deal on them. And they're like, well, what do they fit? And you're like, I don't know. And they're like, well, how do we know? So yeah, it was a big problem.
So I'm going to get my soapbox for 1 minute, right? And I want to talk about, and I hope all the people that are selling truck parts are listening to this. At the end of the day, you are selling the exact same parts that your competitor is selling down the street. So now you've come down to price, delivery, service, your relationship, right? Assume you guys are all delivering parts in an equal manner as well. I really think that the parts departments that really want to thrive and succeed need to be more proactive than they are today. So for example, what you really should be doing if you're an inside sales rep is when you go to that fleet, say, hey, show me what parts you have here that haven't moved in a while, and let me figure out what they fit, and let me figure out how I can help move those things for you and provide that value add to your customer. Because I think in the long term, it's people like that win. So yeah, this tool we're talking about would be great for the retailer to figure out their obsolete inventory. They should be using it for their customers to help them manage their inventory and provide that value service. So I'll step off my soapbox. I just felt like I need to at least bring that up.
No, you stay on the soapbox for a minute. I'm now going to join you.
Yeah.
So I want you to think about this if you're listening right now. Like, think about a customer who has like one Volvo, and he's been using that truck for a while, and you've brought in a bunch of parts for that truck over time. But you're stocking some backup stock, and he's about to sell it, and it's like, do you want him to send all the parts he bought for that truck that he hasn't used yet back to you so that you have a return to deal with and then you get stuck with them? No, right? If that truck gets sent to auction and he doesn't get rid of the stock he has on the shelf for that truck before he sends it to auction, that's what's going to happen. You're going to end up with him asking you to accept a return. So wouldn't it be better to be like, oh, hey, Joe, you're sending that truck to auction in a couple months. Hey, let's go through your inventory. You know what? You've got a seat. You might as well stick it in the truck before it goes, and you might get a few extra bucks at auction because that seat is, been sitting there for 6 months, and then we had it for 6 months, and we can't even return it if we tried. And then all of a sudden he's like, great, that's awesome. Sticks the seat in, the truck goes off to auction. Yeah, he probably gets a few more bucks for it with a brand new seat in it, but at least neither of you now have to deal with inventory stuck on your shelf and trying to return something you're not going to get credit for. And it just makes the whole buying experience with you that much better.
You hit the nail on the head. The people that win in this thing, the retailers that win, are the ones who provide a better service to their customers than their competitors. And being 50 cents cheaper on a brake drum isn't going to win you long-term business, but providing that value service, that wins you long-term business.
Exactly. One of the things that I like about the overall approach that you took when developing diesel parts was that you were really open to anything. And you've got a feature on there that I've never seen on any parts, software or platform ever. You can actually access used or recycled engines and transmissions. Is that true?
Yeah, so there's a great feature on there, and honestly, it's a partnership deal with Scott, who's also been on your episodes here with Truck Parts Inventory. So I was like, Scott, I'm gonna have a platform here where there are a ton of people already on here looking for parts. I think it'd be great to have a used section on there because a lot of people are looking. I follow a lot of Facebook groups with parts guys and retailers and mechanics and all kinds of things. And it's constant. Hey, I need an engine. I need a diff. I need a trunk. I need a transmission. They don't want to put a new one in. And I always refer them to Scott. But I'm like, this would be great to have on the platform. Like you said earlier, we want to be the one place you go to get all your parts needs taken care of. And what we're doing today is like baby step 1 of 100 of where this thing's going in the long run.
Yeah, and when I was selling parts, I'd be slogging all day trying to sell a skid of brakes for like, $2 of profit per shoe. So even if you sold 100 shoes, you're going to make what, like $200 profit for your company that day? Think about this. You walk into a shop, you were planning on talking about brakes, and the guy just blew a motor. And he's upset because that's like 50 grand. And you're like, well, what is it? Okay, give me 5 minutes. And you come back in and you're like, yeah, I found you a motor and it's going to be, $22,000.
I 100% agree. They should be quoting both, right? Here's your new option. And by the way, I found some good used ones over here. There's some risk, but there's some reward, let you decide. And you know what? You end up not losing the sale because you're being consultative with that customer. And it's the same way we run our business, their diagnostic tools. We'll sell you all of them. Let's just talk about it. We're going to help you out. So again, it goes back to the other conversation. Take care of your customer, provide a value that they're not. You win in the long run.
So Tyler, you talk about baby steps, you talk about one of 100 steps with this platform, but really I want to take a step back, and I want people to really understand the way entrepreneurs think, the way when we talk about reimagining things, you've got an overarching kind of vision or dream of what you want this thing to be when it's done. Could you tell us what the big dream is for your entire company, which now includes the Diesel Parts platform?
Yeah, so I sound insane when I say it to people. I know I sound insane, but I keep saying it. I fundamentally want to change the way people repair trucks, right? I think there is a ton of waste that goes on in the industry. It makes no sense to me. Well, I need to go, it should all be tied together. Repair, diagnostic, training, the shop management software, all that should be in one place that just solves a lot of problems. I shouldn't have to walk into a shop. I steal this from somebody else, right? From Keith Eating Associates. I would bet $100 anyone walks out in their shop right now, half their technicians are not touching a truck. They're doing something else. There's a diesel technician shortage going on. There's all kinds of problems in the industry. Let's go solve those problems. So I really believe we can shorten the repair process and the diagnostic process and make it cohesive and allow customers to go from fault code to part number to aftermarket alternatives to clicking a button, ordering the part, with ever picking up the phone and calling somebody. And I think that should be that way through pretty much any part of that process, whether it's a failed part IC, a fault code, a wiring diagram. That's the way it should work in the industry, and it's not. And that's the mission we're on here to accomplish.
You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report, the place where our big dream is to fundamentally change the heavy duty parts industry worldwide. And that's why we like working with people like Tyler Robertson, who has big dreams as well. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and we've been speaking with Tyler Robertson, CEO of Diesel Laptops, which powers the Diesel Parts platform. Now, this is where we normally just thank you for being on the show and exit. But before that, we've got a little bit of business to attend to. We've been running a giveaway that was running in the month of September for the Diesel Parts platform. And you've generously offered to give away 30-day, let me rephrase that. You've generously given away 3 30-day all-access passes to the Diesel Parts platform. And today I'd like to announce the winners. So Tyler, we have 3 winners. Who's our first winner?
So are we gonna put like a drum roll in the background here, maybe?
Yeah, maybe we can get post-production to do that.
All right, so let's just say winner number 1 would be Scott at Radiator Pros. Do you happen to know Scott at all, Jamie?
Yes, Scott is someone who is in the cooling business. He's got really close ties with manufacturers. They do a great job at Radiator Pros. And so we'll make sure that in the show notes, there's a link to their website. So anybody who wants to do some business with Scott, they'll be able to link right over there and do that. Who is our second winner?
Number 2 would be Roadrunner Truck Service as the number 2 winner.
Congratulations to the team over at Roadrunner Truck Service. Number 3 is an individual. Who's that?
Yep. I won't give the whole email address out, but it starts with P. Darcy 1966. So congratulations to P. Darcy 1966.
Yes, congratulations to you as well. So all the winners will be notified, and they are going to get 3 30-day all accesses passes, so 1 each to the 3 winners. They're going to be able to use all the advanced features and check everything out. Now, if you didn't see the giveaway or you didn't win today, the giving isn't over just yet. So we're excited to announce that on October 14th, 2020, we are doing a live webinar where we're going to go through the Diesel Parts platform in more detail. We're going to talk about some of the big problems that this platform solves, the economic impact that's going to have on your business, and how to use the tool to generate more revenue. So I'm really excited that also there's a special offer for everyone who attends the webinar. So go over to heavydutypartsreport.com/webinar today to sign up. And we will see you on October 14th. Tyler, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And I really appreciate you supporting the show over the last year and a half.
Hey, very much appreciate having me on. And as we always say here at Diesel Laptops, it's diagnostics done right. And you can't do that with a great parts platform. So I hope everyone enjoys Diesel Parts.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and I just like to remind everyone to focus on cost per mile and
let's keep those trucks and trailers rolling.
You can watch our next video make sure to click the like button, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe.